How Different Are We Really? An Examination of District 9 by Ursula Evanovsky. District 9 came out in 2009 by director Neil Blomkamp. The film, which uses found footage, fake interviews, as well as documentary-style filmmaking, follows two main characters. Human, Vicus Vandermeer, and alien, Christopher Johnson. The basic premise of the film is that aliens have landed above Johannesburg, South Africa, about 20 years before the present day. They were placed in a camp known as District 9, and in the present day are being forced to relocate, causing a great deal amount of tension. One big aspect of the film is that by the end, Vicus, who works with the government agency in charge of relocating the aliens, becomes an alien-human hybrid himself, bridging the gap between the alien and the human perspective. Some of the syntax and semantics of the film, or the building blocks of genre, are pretty typical ones for sci-fi. There's aliens, the alien spaceship, a shady government agency, the sketchy labs and experiments being done by said government agency, first contact between humans and aliens, alternate history, again, part of this does take place about 20 years before the present day, as well as fear of the other, or us versus them. This film digs a lot into metaphors, allegories, and ideologies. The primary metaphors seen in the film are that aliens standing in for racism and class inequality. The allegory is about apartheid South Africa, or the time when South Africa was divided between black and white populations, with whites holding all of the power and black South Africans pretty much none, and being treated in fact as second-class citizens. The ideology being presented by the film is that apartheid was bad, and therefore we share a common humanity even with aliens. According to an article by K.B. Wagner, Blomkamp's substitution of South African blacks, but also African immigrants from Nigeria and Zimbabwe, with extraterrestrials illustrates a newer, technologically more sophisticated metaphor to locate dramatically the still occurring imbalances in South Africa. When it comes to gender, this film is pretty straightforward. There are male characters, and there are more male characters. There's really only one singular female character, and that's Vicus's wife. She's really treated as an object of being coveted by him as he's going through his transformation. On the other hand, there's a whole range of emotions and portrayals happening with the male characters in the film. And interestingly enough, at least within the limited scope of what we see in the film, even all of the aliens are actually male. Sexuality is again something of a simple matter when it comes to this film, in that there's not really much discussion about sexuality, and instead heterosexuality is kind of the default. There's really little to no diversity, and there's not really even a lot to say about it when it comes to a metaphor or anything like that. I think that the aliens were kind of meant to equal enough diversity. On the other hand, when it comes to race, there's a lot to say. Again, we kind of have that apartheid allegory. There's the othering of the aliens, which according to Berlatsky is oftentimes seen as one of the key 4 ways that race can be seen in sci-fi. So that racist metaphor, where aliens are equivalent to blackness. rather than seeing race or racism directly. However, there is the matter of whether or not this is a case of white saviorism, as the aliens who need to be saved are a stand-in for blackness. So it can be seen as somewhat of a problem. There's also the use of the slur prawns, as the aliens look like this, somewhat crustacean-like. When it comes to class, there's a distinct separation of class. There's the aliens, the second-class citizens. This is, again, one of those metaphors that are being used. Here we can see what the slums look like, and this is, again, meant to be equivalent to the to what was being seen in apartheid South Africa. There's the rich versus the poor. When we see Vicus's home earlier on in the film, we can see that he is well off versus the slums that the aliens are being forced to live in. It's also interesting where, with class, about this rich versus poor, second-class citizens and slums, is that these are somewhat, and like I said before with the slur being used of prawns, of social labels. According to Adam Altler, social labels aren't born dangerous. Labels are harmful to the extent that they become associated with meaningful character traits. And this can certainly be seen throughout the film, where prawns become equivalent with criminal. Technology becomes a huge part of this film, as technology is seen as a form of power. Alien technology and alien biology, as only aliens can use alien technology, becomes a big part of Vicus's transformation. As he becomes more alien, he is able to use not only alien weapons, but the alien spaceship as well. Here I am inserting a clip of showing how humans value Vicus's ability to use alien technology. The impact and the canon. One of the things that was really interesting about District 9 is that it had a pretty intense marketing campaign. While this wasn't unique to the film, it had previously been seen in films like The Dark Knight, Why So Serious? This was something that Sony took really seriously with this film. So you can see here a bench that has a "For Humans Only" sign on it, with a number that you can call and a website that you can go to report non-human activity. This, of course, would lead you to marketing for the movie, which I think is really interesting and definitely had a big impact overall. This also has led to talk of a potential sequel. While it hasn't come to fruition quite yet, considering this movie came out in 2009, as recently as 2021, there was still talk happening of making a sequel. And also, there's the important part of fan works. While it's limited, there is fan fiction. There is a fandom page in which fans come together to discuss this work, and I think that those are both really important to showing the impact and the canon for the film.